morning again. We have a special treat for you this morning. Keegan, if you could come up here. Y'all may know him, you may not know him. This is Keegan Bell.
Thank you.
And Crosswinds has made a commitment that we believe strongly in empowering the next generation of Christian leaders. And Keegan is someone that I knew when he was 13 years old and knew him quite well. And I didn't see him again until he was a grown man at the age of 27. But when I encountered Keegan again, there was something very different about him. Jesus had got a hold of him, and he's just a little bit on fire when I reconnected with him. And y'all are going to get to hear Keegan speak to you this morning. I think that you are going to be amazed at how God is at work in his life. Keegan was a fantastic athlete in high school. He went off and did some of that in college. He's going to tell you a little bit of that story this morning. But the most important thing you need to know about Keegan is Keegan isn't playing when it comes to following Jesus. So y'all welcome him. Give him a warm welcome as he brings our message for us this morning.
Thank you, guys. One more round of applause for the band. That's amazing. That's a treat for me. I feel like I got a little dessert there, man. That was good. Very good. Man, I've heard so much about Harvest, so I'm like really, really excited to be here. I'm usually always camped over in Madison, so I was very fired up to be here this morning. And I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. But before I get started with everything, I just want to say thank you for giving me this chance. I mean, ministry's been a new dream of mine, and so to jump in this, both feet in, and to be dealing with both campuses, the people that I've met here at Harvest, you guys have been great. And so I definitely appreciate you starting my mission off in ministry. But you know, we're on the fact check series here, and so we'll move on, and we're finishing up with that. And really with fact check, when they gave me the fact check, I was kind of like, oh no, here we go. It's about to get real, right? Because fact check, you know, we're starting to, it's investigating the truth. It's investigating the facts. And so if we're investigating the truth, our series verse is, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free, John 8:32. And today I kind of want to talk to you about a truth misconception, and it's this conception that God wants you to be happy. Now bear with me, because when I first saw that, I was like, of course God wants me to be happy, but then I started breaking it down kind of in my mind and in people's ideas, and sometimes happiness can be a little bit selfish. You know, all of a sudden, I mean, it's a great thought that God just wants me to be happy. There's going to be this zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day life, that everything is going to go right. Everything, all my pleasures, all my desires, all my comfort, I'm going to get that. And I mean, and it sounds really good, and then when I say it, it sounds even sillier than thinking it. But the silly part is this is how I lived my life for a very, very, very long time. She did say I'm a lot different than what I used to be. And I know you guys don't know me very well, so I kind of want to invite you guys into my life. And doing that, I want to go back in time and revert back to me in 8th grade. I know that's a long time ago, but the reason it's 8th grade is because I think that's such an important time. Like, you're not in elementary school anymore. You're not in high school, but you're kind of in that shifting where things that happen in middle school, it somehow takes you through life, you know, things that happen there. And so me in 8th grade, I was very, very blessed. My dad was a college basketball coach, and so I was around basketball all the time. Like, when we went on trips, I'd sleep up in the luggage racks. My mom said when I was crying, she used to take me to practice, and I would just sit there all day long, back and forth. I'd play imaginary basketball games. I worked at it. Worked at it so much that in 8th grade, I played at Bob Jones High School. I was on the varsity team on a team that went to the state championship. So I did not play middle school basketball. Averaged 15 points a game. So that was a good year. For an 8th grade, that's pretty big. Well, the same year, the University of Alabama offered me a full ride basketball scholarship. So that was really cool. And then the same year, I got invited to this thing called NBA Top 100 Camp. And what this is they take the top 100 basketball players in the country. Doesn't matter your age, your grade, anything. They think if you're a top 100 player, you're invited to this camp. And so I don't know if any of you are basketball fans, but Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Kevin Love, I went toe-to-toe with those guys, so that's my pat on the back story. But I don't say that to, like, brag about myself and, like, say that I have skills and stuff like that, but it's just to show you that as an 8th grader, I mean, how much happier really can you get? And so I lived this life, and with this stuff came a lot of fame, came a lot of recognition. I mean, all of a sudden, I'm on the local news, I'm on TV. I remember one time they had a paper, and it was basketball. It was A through Z, and K was for Keegan. And so I'm saying, oh, yeah, Keegan, sharpshooter. I was like, man, I'm the man, right? And you walk around, and you get this happiness. I mean, it feels good to have that power. It feels good to walk into a room and that everybody knows that you're there. You know, it feels good to know that you're the guy in the gym. And so when I look at it, this kind of happiness factor, I mean, it really turned me selfish without me realizing it, right? So, I mean, my happiness train, it's all about me, me, me. How much more publicity can I get? I'm the number one player in the state of Alabama. I'm going, doing my thing. I mean, it really was selfish. So my happiness was all based on how people treated me and how popular I was. And so I started looking and thinking about life in 8th grade, and this is very embarrassing, so please don't judge me, but we're getting real tonight, or today. Talking about relationships, I was what you call a 2-week wonder. I'm telling you, girlfriend, you had me for 2 weeks. You had me for 2 weeks, and when I wasn't happy, maybe a week and a half. And when I was not happy anymore, I'm gone. I'm gone. Either on to the next one or on to the next thing. Same thing with friendships. If I had a friend that came at me the wrong way and wasn't on my happiness train and wanted to tell me something I didn't want to hear, I wasn't about it, and so I ran away. I ran away from discomfort. I ran away from things that didn't make me happy. And really what it was is I was just a big child. I was a big kid. In 8th grade and on, I was a big kid. And so it kind of takes us to this verse. And in 1 Corinthians 13:11, it says, when I was a child, I talked like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. And I was so much of a child, I wish that they would put child in there one more time because that's how bad I was. And this is this perfect picture of me. I know we're sitting here talking about happiness, but that was me. That was me, and what I like to call that is like the stank face. So again, if you're not on my happiness train, if you're not making me feel good, I'm going to give you the stank face, and it's my way or the highway. Go on somewhere. And I want to show this picture because this wasn't me just in 8th grade. I'm talking about this is what started. I was in 8th grade, so through middle school. Again, I left Pastor Suzanne. I wasn't in her class anymore, but I left, and so it followed me through high school, followed me through college, and followed me as a man. I was just this my way or the highway kid. And so what I've shared with you so far, let's kind of have my fact check since we're doing that. Of course, like I said, it's all about me. All about me, 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 me. Ran away from discomfort. But the thing that still gets me now that I still lose sleep over is like, I didn't care. At that time, I didn't care. Those girls that, okay, I'm the 2-week wonder and I left, I didn't care how that was affecting them at that time. I didn't care how that was going to affect them in the future. I'm thinking about my friends, like, okay, I lost a friend, boom, you're not with me. But maybe my friend needed me there. Maybe that affected his friendships in the future. I just absolutely didn't care because all that was important to me, all that I thought was important to me was zippity-doo-dah, me being happy. And again, it just can sum it up as an immature child. And this verse right here is actually on immaturity. And it says, you need milk, not solid food. Now, everyone who lives on milk alone is inexperienced with messages about righteousness because he is an infant. But solid food is for the mature, for those whose senses have been trained and to distinguish between good and evil. Hebrews 5:12-14. I know that's kind of a little wordy and gets a little crazy there, but basically when I look at that, the second to last line, but solid food is for the mature. And then I go back to the first line, you need milk. I need to get off the milk. It was time for me to grow up. And growing up can be hard. I don't know about you guys, but anyway, let's look at it from a physical standpoint. You revert yourself back to 8th grade. How were you? Maybe you have some acne on your face. Maybe you're walking around tripping over yourself. Your body's going through different things, cause a lot of emotional problems, a lot of things. Physically, it's tough. And then we don't even have to revert back that far. I'm sure right now some of us physically can't do some of the things that we used to do. For instance, for me, about a month ago, I went with our youth to Shakalaka with our boys over in Madison. And Shakalaka is a bunch of trampolines, right? So you're jumping around and whatever. So I jumped for an hour. And when I say I jumped for an hour, I jumped for 5 minutes and took about a 15-minute break. And then I would jump for 5 minutes, and then I'd take another 15-minute break. And I'm sitting there, I'm gassed. I'm tired. I'm looking at our kids, and they're like wanting to jump another hour. And I'm like, you have got to be crazy. So here I am, this top athlete here, everybody, top 100 player. I can't even jump at Shakalaka. It's hard how your life gets through you. And physically, it's just tough. Physical getting older, it's just a struggle. But the spiritual part is where it's at. And this is such a deep part here because I don't know where you're at in your faith, and really it doesn't matter because wherever you're at, it's always tough. If you're a first-time believer, it's tough kind of jumping into things. It can be overwhelming. If you've been a Christian all your life, it's still tough because there's still this growth that's going on. And I know with me, if you're going through spiritual troubles, I probably tried every religion out there. I did everything that I could do, to have that spiritual growth. And there's times, even when I became a Christian, there's times of doubt, there's times of frustration, there's times of not understanding what's going on, and it's really scary. I think one time too, when I was a Christian, I used to be like coming on Sunday and getting that milk, right? Well, really, I like to call it juice. So I come in, I get that milk, I get that juice for the week, and I think I can go conquer the world, and I get beat down, and I get beat down, and I get beat down. And all of a sudden, I come back on Sunday, and I'm there on Sunday, I'm singing, raise my hand, and all of a sudden, I get beat down. I get beat down. I get beat down. So even if you're just getting the milk, it's still hard to have that control, right? And then if you're trying to get solid food and you're trying to grow up there a little bit, it can be tough as well. So spiritual growth is just one of those things that we all battle with, and it's tough. But I love this. This is the competitor sports person in me. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. James 1, 2 through 4. And I don't know about you guys, but I get a competitive spirit there. So you're telling me, okay, I understand now, all these trials, all these things that I'm going through, it's only going to make me better. All right, bring it on. Bring it on. So all of a sudden, you're saying all these things, all these mistakes, all these hard things that I'm dealing with right now, all it's going to do is have me get better, get me whole, get me complete. I love that at the end of it. Be mature and complete, not lacking anything. I mean, that's really pretty powerful. And there's two things I think about when I'm reading that. And it's first this word of endurance. And I always think about the Energizer Bunny. I mean, you remember those commercials, like keep going and going and going. And man, endurance is such a tough thing, but it's funny how important it is just to keep going, just to not stop, just to keep taking steps by steps and just kind of keep getting better. And I don't know if you guys have ever been through a trial or a challenge in your life that's been really hard, and you look back at it and you're like, how did I get through that? But I think the fun part about it is I've had that trial in my life, and I'm like, how did I get through that? But then another trial comes, and I'm like, if I got through this, there's no, this is easy. And so it's funny, that endurance factor, it just kind of keeps you going, and you don't realize that your endurance is shaping up. God might throw something at you, and you're getting tired, but you keep going, and maybe you keep going because to make this other trial in the future just a little bit less hard. You can really conquer it. And the other point, it's all in the passage, is this thought of perseverance, right? That no matter how slow success comes, no matter how slow it happens, that I'm going to get to the other side of it. That mountain, I'm going to get there. That problem, that challenge, whatever I'm going through, I'm going to get there. As long as I keep going, as long as I keep my endurance up, as long as I persevere through all this that's getting thrown at me, I'm going to get to the other side. And I still coach. So I coach basketball. I went and played pro. I've been a college coach for about 3 years, and I still coach. I coach this middle school team, and they're great kids. They're very talented. They all can shoot. They can all play. They're all very coachable. Really, really, really good group. Coach's dream. But there's this one kid, and this kid, his name is Nick. And Nick is just not a little bit different. He is just on a whole nother level. He can dribble, he can pass, he can shoot. He's a leader. He makes good grades. He works hard. He is all the above. Like, he wants it. He's hungry. And I love that. Like, God has given him this absolute, like, if you went and didn't know basketball and never played, you would walk away being like, wow, that kid was fun to watch. That kid was good. And so every day I go and I'm making practice plans, right? And my biggest thing that I'm trying to do is I want to challenge Nick. I want to knock Nick down a little bit. I want to make everything just a little bit more difficult for him because he's just at another level. And so what I mean by that is we have like competition shooting. So you partner up with somebody and you go to goals and you shoot until you make a certain number. And so what I do is every time we do that, Nick is going to be paired with the worst shooter, just to make it a little bit harder. A lot of times we play one-on-one full court. And so I have the person check the ball in their chest, and they play one-on-one full court. If he can blow by him, blow by him. But when Nick's on offense, I have 2 defenders get in front of him, and now he's got to beat 2 defenders down because he's just that good. I kind of want to challenge him a little bit. Another thing is I'll take 2 basketballs, and I'll put them in his hand, and I'll have a defender up there, and I'm like, all right, Nick, you got to get by your defender with 2 basketballs. It's kind of impossible, right? And it's just funny to sit there and see him and see his response because at that moment, I'm not worried about Nick's happiness. I want to knock Nick on his butt. I want to see how he's going to respond. I want to see what he's going to do with this situation that I put him in. And it's funny, at the beginning, boy, did he act like a child. Slamming the ball, getting mad, going to water, like pouting around, afterwards doing too much. And finally, after a few days of practice, I pull Nick aside, as a calm coach would do. And I'm like, Nick, what are you doing, man? Seriously, what are you doing? Like, do you not understand that, like, I'm challenging you? You are so good. You have this ability. Like, if I just let you be comfortable, you can easily beat these kids one-on-one. You could probably put one hand behind your back and you're beating them down the floor. Like, I want you to be challenged. The reason I'm doing this is because I believe in you. I care about you. Your future, you don't need to be the best 8th grader around right now. You need to go through these challenges so when you go through challenges later in your career, that it's going to be all easy. And it's funny, the next day at practice, to see this shift, because it goes back to, like, take joy in it. All of a sudden, he understood that I was doing it because I cared about him. I wasn't picking on him. I wasn't just like, okay, I'm going to make Nick's day awful every day. No, he knew that I cared about him. He knew that I want him to get better, and all of a sudden it shifted. He started having joy with it. And shortly after he started having joy with it, it wasn't success right away, but, he'd get the ball stolen or something would happen, and he'd come back and he'd be ready again. But all of a sudden that joy took him where he was getting through those challenges. All of a sudden, he's beating 2 of them, and he's like, what, Coach, do you want me to turn around and come back? Like, then you're starting to be a smart butt, so I had to put him on the line a little bit. But just that shift and that joy, it was so fun to see him grow and Nick to mature. And so it kind of takes me back, and it's funny, Suzanne kind of mentioned it. There's 2 teachers I remember in my life through all of it. I wasn't a great student. I just smiled my way through it all. But there's two teachers that I remember. One of them was Miss Ketchke. She was Miss Ketchke to me. It's still hard to call her Pastor Suzanne. And the one thing, there's a lot of things I remember about Miss Ketchke's class, but the one thing I remember is the first day I walked in, I was sitting back row middle, heaven, leaning on the wall. I was a class clown. Like, I literally loved it. It was perfect setting. Now, it was block schedule, and at that time, you had about an hour and 40 minutes of class. So remember, first day I'm in there. By the end of that hour and 40 minutes, I am up front to the left, right in front of the board where she teaches, and I stayed there, did not move. My friends moved. I begged to move. I smiled to try to move. I bribed to try to move. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. I stayed right there. And the funny thing about Miss Ketchke is she let me be me. She knew I needed, a little attention. She knew I needed to kind of throw my jokes out and be Mr. Jokey Boy and all that kind of stuff. But whenever I was taken away from somebody else's happiness, whenever I was being a child, whenever I was being a little bit immature, she wouldn't say anything. She'd come right over to my desk, and she'd give me a little tap. And that was her way of telling me, like, I needed to grow up. So I would just kind of be quiet, sit straight, let it all happen. And it's funny, she was always that reminder for me. And so I went through life. I didn't know Miss Ketchke after that. I left and never heard from her again. So I went through this life again, back on that happiness track, right? So I went, and it was fun. Like I said, I got to play college basketball. I went and played professionally overseas. Man, I got into coaching, and all this stuff was happening. I just realized, like, man, I am not happy. I'm not happy. There was a shift in me. There was a point in my life where I said, you know what? I'm ready to grow up. I'm ready to grow up. And so I really started diving in to this God, to Jesus, to Christianity, something that I've been kind of running away from because it was uncomfortable for me at that age, and it wasn't giving me my happiness. Because if I'm reading the Bible and doing all this stuff, all these other things I'm doing, it's not happening, right? So I pushed it away, and there's no shock in my life that when I wanted to grow up, who was there again tapping at my desk? It was Suzanne. And so for me to come back, there's a lot of reasons I chose Crosswinds. There's a lot of reasons I chose this church, and there's a lot of reasons why I love this place. But I remember my first meeting with them. I hadn't seen them in a while. We're talking, and I walked away from there, and I made a phone call, and I said, I know one thing about them. They'll help me grow. I'll grow with them. I'll grow spiritually. I'll grow as a leader. I'll grow as a person. I'll grow as a coworker. I'll grow in every facet of my life. And I have. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about them. And because they'll tell me if I do something wrong, they'll let me know. And I want that because I want to grow and I want to get better. And that's really, it's really motivational. It's really fun, but it's really in their DNA. I mean, if you think about it, if we go back to the milk and solid food, every week we come in here and they give us our milk, right? They spend hours preparing for this, and they're up here and they give us our milk, they give us our juice, we're ready to rock. But every day there's a connection card for a next step. And so it's funny. So all they want with me, I know that they want me to grow, and if they want me to grow, I know they want our congregation to grow, and I know they want each and every one of you to grow. And so that's a perfect example right there. There's your solid food. So they're giving you the milk, and then they're telling you, take home, here's the next step you can go. Here's how you can grow, learn, and improve, and get better. And I mean, what great leadership is that? You know what I'm saying? The fact that all of us want to grow, or that they want all of us to grow. And it's so important. I think sometimes we forget how important it is that each and every single one of us grow. Because if we're growing individually, we're growing as a group. And if we're growing as a group, we're growing as a church. And if this church is growing, I'm not meaning grow like get more numbers, get whatever. That can come or not come. I'm talking about grow together. Grow in yourself and grow in us. And this church gets bigger and this church grows together. And we're there. I mean, watch out. Watch out this community, what can happen. And so it kind of takes me to this question about, if God doesn't want happiness, what does God want? And really, to me, it's not happiness, but wholeness. This learn, this grow, this Nick, all I'm trying to do with Nick is to make him whole and complete because I know he's going to have challenges. I know how talented he is. I know. And so it's funny, each and every one of us is Nick, right? Each and every one of us is Nick because we might not have the basketball talent, but you guys have something I don't have. I have something you don't have. I said it before. If anyone wants to play me in basketball right now, check ball, I'm scoring on all of you. All day long, because that's my talent, right? Like check ball will go. I said before, the one person I will not play in this church is Michael Ketchke, because if y'all saw him at the youth trip, he will bite someone's ankles off trying to get the basketball, and I'm not trying to get hurt. Seriously, he is a bruiser, right? But there's something in here that if y'all check ball with me, you would whoop me. And so you all are going to have your challenges and your trials and whatever it is, and your challenges are going to be way different than mine, and mine's going to be way different than yours, But the fun part about it is that endurance, right? That perseverance. It is different. Nobody knows what you're going through because you're going through it and you get through it. And really with me, when I found out the only way for me to be whole is Jesus in my life. The only way for me to be whole, that's it. And then all these times when I get knocked down, when all of a sudden things aren't happening easy for me, I try to remember something. Have joy, smile, figure it out, fight, grit down and fight. Grit down and persevere and get around it. And so really, if that's our thing, I just talked about connection cards. And my next step, I really want to challenge you because I think I'm serious. I think it's very important that each and every one of us grow. I think that if you look down on your next steps, my thing is, one thing I can do to grow in my faith is, what happens if all of us grew in our faith in just one way? What would that do? What would that do to your family? What would that do to this church? What would that do to this community? What would that do to this state? It's unbelievable. What is one thing that we can do to grow? And for me, my growth was I wanted to stop waiting for the warm and fuzzies. I wanted to stop waiting for this aha moment that I was chasing it. When I wanted to dive in, I said, you know what? I want to grow up. I've been too immature for too long. I got to chase it. I got to go after it. And so I started reading the Bible. I started getting into books. I started watching YouTube. I quit my job that people still think I'm crazy about, being a college coach. I was on my way up. I was on my way up to be a D1 assistant and all this stuff, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to grow up. And so with me, my growth is I wanted to stop. I wanted to work for God. And so that's why I wanted to get in ministry. And that was my thing. How did I grow? I stopped. I went after solid food. I stopped the milk, and I went after it. And so that's just what I ask you is, let's all grow together. Harvest, Madison, everybody. We grow together, and this church grows. I'm telling you, great things will happen. I appreciate it. Thank you.